Welcome back to another episode of the Checkerboard Chat. I'm Josh Lane, joined as always by Ethan Riley and Andrew. Another big, exciting week for Tennessee sports. Basketball is winding down their regular season. Baseball and softball, they're just kicking their season off, so there's a lot of things going on. Lots to talk about today, but just first of all, how we all doing here today on a Monday morning. We've had an adventurous time getting this thing recorded, but I think we're good now, good to go.
Yep, still pushing P. Doing what we can.
I'm not.
You're not pushing P?
I'm tired. I'm so tired. I've called the wrong people this morning. I have to set up my card. I'm out of money. It's just all sorts of stuff.
It's a lot of college things.
At least it was a good week for sports on Rocky Top for the most part.
Yeah, that's true enough.
True enough.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm really riding high off of this weekend. I just spent watching baseball because, man, it's tough otherwise on a Monday morning.
Josh is in heaven.
This
is Josh's peak.
Yep.
The only thing, and I know Andrew, you had it too, was just getting sunburned at the game yesterday. It was like 50 degrees, but in the sun for 4 hours.
Yeah,
it's hot. So.
Yeah, I saw the worst of both worlds this weekend because Friday afternoon I was sitting in 30-degree weather while Josh was in the press box just living the high life.
Well, it wasn't that high life because some clowns in the press box decided to open the window.
Yeah, that's fair.
There it is.
The walk-up music and everything,
Mm.
and so then it got a little cold in there. It wasn't 30 degrees, so. I felt so bad for you.
Whose call was it to open the window in the press box?
I don't want to name any.
To hear 30 seconds.
I have an idea.
Yeah.
Next week on the Checkerboard Chat, we ranked the Tennessee baseball team walk-up songs.
I'm here for this.
I have a feature writing class, and I'm definitely considering writing for this first story I have to do about Tennessee walk-up songs.
Mm-hmm.
That's a
So
good
we'll
one.
see.
What was the
Yeah,
best
that goes.
one? What was the best one from the weekend?
I like, I can't remember whose it is. Somebody has a Jay-Z song that's pretty awesome.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
Jordan Beck has the Circle of Life from the Lion
that's
King,
good.
and
That's a good
that
one.
one's close to me because as a Mets fan, Yoenis Cespedes used to have that. That was back in his prime, and he would walk up to that. So
It's different for you.
yeah. But anyways, we're already off on a rabbit hole. Let's talk about Tennessee basketball. They had a big week. Started out strong by beating Kentucky at home. Again, that was a game. Kentucky made it close a couple times, but really Tennessee was in control for most of that one. Then Saturday, Vols on the road to Arkansas had their worst offense performance of the season. There's a lot going on there. But just start out, what are the biggest takeaways from Tennessee basketball's week?
It showed the duality of Tennessee basketball, I'd say. You
What
at
a
home beat Kentucky.
verbiage.
Very similar to the way that they beat Arizona. They looked dominant while doing it. Everyone leaves that building thinking if this team shows up in March, big if, that's a Final Four team. Because they are. They embarrassed Kentucky. It really wasn't close throughout. I mean, the Wildcats made a bit of a run in the later stages, got it, I think, within 8 at one point, but even that's nothing really to sneeze at, I feel like, for Tennessee. Like, they had control of that game the entire time, and then travel down to Fayetteville, and it's the exact opposite. It was Texas Tech Part 2. Such an awful game, and, I mean, it doesn't help that it wasn't officiated well, and that's not even making excuses, that's just how it was. It was an unwatchable game, not necessarily just because Tennessee and Arkansas weren't shooting well. It's just they didn't have a chance. Every 30 seconds there was a foul called, and there just was no flow. Rick Barnes even said after the game there was no way we could get into a flow. And if he's complaining about officiating, then that means something. That legitimately means something. But, I mean, to get off that, Tennessee wasn't helping themselves. They had 15 turnovers. They could not shoot the ball worth anything. I believe they were 30%, maybe 27% on the day. Shot 4 of 24 from deep. It's not a recipe for success.
Yeah. I think the thing that kind of worries me a little bit is just some of the inconsistencies we've seen from some players. Like, you see John Fulkerson on Kentucky scored 12 points and 6 rebounds, and then Arkansas, I don't think he even scored. Or did he? Maybe a couple of points.
2 points.
2 points.
2 points.
So, I don't know, and obviously Rick Barnes, after the game, talked about the lack of inside play, and that was evident because, well, the thing about me, Euros, he had a great run. He did. I just don't know if it's time for him to be in a lineup anymore because when he's in, it's 4-on-5. Let's just be honest. Because when he's out there, there's no spacing. Jalen Williams for Arkansas literally sat in the paint the entire time yours was in there. So I get that Barnes wants to do Eurosh and BHX and Lana, but I don't know if that's working anymore. Spacing is just not there. So I just think for me, it's just the inconsistency from some players. Like Kennedy played fine, Zakai played okay as well as they could have, lack of shooting. But like Folke, Josiah kind of has had a rough week, hadn't really shot that well lately since maybe Carolina or A&M. So I just think for me, just some of the inconsistencies we've seen, especially inside, just hasn't been there as of late.
Yeah, obviously the win on Tuesday is huge. And Saturday, I don't think you count off as like a horrible loss.
You don't.
No. I don't think many people were expecting Tennessee to go in and beat Arkansas on the road for the first time since 2009. But I obviously didn't get to watch all the game because I was covering baseball that day. But from what I did see, when your players get in foul trouble that much, there's just only so much you can do on defense. You don't want to. You got 4 fouls with 10 minutes left. You don't want to be guarding them at half court, getting silly reach-in fouls. So just that lack of aggression just kind of kills you when you get fouls like that. And you kind of just, I guess the only thing you can do in that situation is hope you don't get in foul trouble.
Yeah.
And then shoot the ball better.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
And when Kennedy picks up a cheap one before the half, his third one, that really kind of kills the momentum of any kind of, because he didn't play for the first 7 minutes of the second half.
Yeah.
So that like you said, foul trouble really killed him out. Like you said, that loss wasn't like a bad one for any stretch of the imagination. So it just happens. I just wish they could have played a little better. Obviously.
Yeah, and then even on the offensive end, as far as the fouls go, when the refs are calling that many charge calls, you're not going to be as aggressive.
It gets in your head.
Yeah, it gets in your head a lot. So those kind of fouls just really kill the momentum and kill the flow of the game, like we all talked about.
It was something I wrote about actually that Barnes said. Look, they're calling the fouls. Like when it comes down to it, I may not agree with them, but you just kind of have to live with it.
Yeah.
That's something like we told you. Hey, they're gonna be trying to slide under that. They're wanting to draw charge fouls, and really Tennessee just didn't really heed that advice. Even if some of them were not good calls, which Kennedy's last one was not a good call.
No.
Vescovi's fourth that held him out for most of the rest of the game. That kind of started the run that Arkansas went on. That one was not a foul. But when it comes down to it, you cannot put yourself in that situation at the same time.
Yeah. And for Arkansas, they were getting some cheap ones too. Like Note's last call, that was a pretty bad one too. So
Note's was terrible.
Note's was awful.
Yeah.
So there were some going both ways, but it did feel like Tennessee was getting the bad end of the stick there with 3 people and 4 fouls. So and last thing too, there was a lot of lineups that had not seen the floor at all that entire season.
Mm-hmm.
So right then and there, you just know it's just not Tennessee's day if that's just the way it's going.
There was, just to put credence to that, there was one at the end of the first half. I think it was Jemai, Huntley, Hatfield.
Was it Powell or Bailey?
It was Powell, Fulkerson, and somebody else. But it was like
what are they doing?
There were no starters on the floor. I don't think
No.
It was incredible to watch. I was like, what's going on here? Why is this? And then you look through the thing, and it's like, oh yeah, Barnes doesn't play players with 3 fouls.
No.
Kennedy has 3 at this point. Zakai had 2. Josiah, I believe, had 2, and he was a fouling machine.
Yeah, he was. Yeah,
So,
he was.
his were legitimate.
Legit,
Josiah's were legitimate, but I don't know. You can't play the game when you got people in foul trouble. It's as simple as that. So that's how you lose games like that, because it's not putting anything past Arkansas. They're the hottest team in the SEC right now. They're one of the hottest teams in the nation. They've won 11 in a row now, 11 out of their last 12.
Yeah.
And so they're not a team you want to face in March.
Speaking of that, I do want to talk about the atmosphere at Arkansas. I know y'all weren't there, but you said Tennessee hasn't won there since 2009. Obviously, that home court advantage has been so big for Tennessee. How did that play in at Arkansas? Just from what you could tell, and then their crowd.
For one thing, they had Bobby Portis there, and he literally brought the NBA Finals trophy, so that was already bad enough.
Yeah.
And they had, I think, with maroon out, cardinal out, whatever their color is. They wore maroon jerseys. Tennessee wore their home white. So it was already weird from the start. They booed Vescovi every time we got the basketball, which was really annoying. You could tell. It wasn't probably the main reason why they lost, obviously, but you could tell there was something in it. You come from Knoxville on Tuesday, one of the most raucous environments all season for Tennessee, to go to that. that's a huge swing and a huge favor in the way of Arkansas, and it was pretty evident the way Tennessee played, obviously. So
They've got a guy that they pick out, the student section
Yeah.
picks out to boo every single
every
game. That's
game.
insane.
I think they literally tweeted. I gotta find the tweet.
Yeah, they do. They
did,
tweet
yeah.
it out. They're like, "This is the dude we're booing this
Yes.
time," and it just happened to be Vescovy this time. And I mean, I'm not sure if it got to him, to be totally honest. He played about like he usually does, but I can definitely see how that would be a weapon. Like if you did that to Folky,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, he'd break
He's
down.
over. He's over.
Like he couldn't handle the Kentucky one, and
yeah, I was
like
about to say Kentucky basically did that in row. It wasn't
Yeah.
like quite every time.
yeah, Kentucky
basically
did
happened.
pretty much the same thing, and he had 0 points in the Kentucky game. So if they had picked him, which it would have been dumb to, because he's not the best player right now. But
Yeah.
if they had picked him, I mean, he'd probably be done for the month.
Yeah.
I mean, Vescovy shot. Looking here, 2 for 13. He missed eight 3-pointers.
I did not realize he shot 2 for 13. He still scored like
He had
7 or 8.
points. He
Okay.
went 2 for 2 from the free throw, and he had 11 rebounds. So defensive rebounds.
I was about to say, I felt like he contributed in some
Yeah.
way. It must
So-
have been the rebounds.
Yeah, rebounding he was great, but
Regardless, I mean, he wasn't scoring like he usually was,
Yeah.
but in fairness, nobody else was either. I don't think there's anybody on the team that was shooting a reliant clip. Maybe
Yeah.
Kennedy Chandler was the best, but that was only the first half. And kind of like to Riley's point earlier, when he went out with that third foul, he was a different player because he was playing more timid, and you can't really blame him because if he picks up his fourth and Vescovy's sitting there with his fourth, and Ziegler was also in foul trouble, who is going to run the offense?
I found the tweet. The social media is called "Boo This Guy at Bud," and they said number 25 Santiago Vescovy, Tennessee's leading scorer, but that will change at 3 p.m. today, and Bud Walton obliterate him.
well,
It worked.
It worked.
they were right.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome, honestly.
Yeah, I love that, but I also hate it for
Yeah.
just a viewing standard. Yeah.
Well, I think you mentioned something earlier about potentially changing up the lineup. I think we've been talking about that forever.
Yeah.
I mean, is there any better time now to switch the lineup to bench Uros or Brandon or start Zakai? I mean, I thought it was interesting. Rick Barnes the other day said that John Fulkerson prefers to come off the bench. So I don't know him or even Jonas at this point. He's been getting more minutes. So what's your thoughts on that?
I'm being 100% serious. I think Adu should start.
Yeah.
I think he should be the starting 4, or at least, I don't know, maybe even starting 5 and move. I don't know. I don't know what you'd do there. Maybe have Folky at the 4, maybe have Euros. I guess that's a little different. But
Yeah.
get him in the starting lineup because that dude, he's not perfect right now by any means. He's rusty, but he has so much potential to contribute to this team in March. And it's exactly what the team needs, too. And the thing that I found weird about the Arkansas game that I don't think is really that important, but is still a little strange, is that Barnes didn't really play him much, especially in the first half.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like in a time where you kind of needed a spark, maybe even something more on defense when Arkansas was hitting their shots early, I feel like Adu is like the perfect dude for that. And he saw 16 minutes of action. And I think in that 16 minutes he got, 6 rebounds, which is insane.
Yeah.
In 16 minutes of play. And it's like every time that dude comes on the court, he's at least contributing rebound-wise and often contributing as just like a Rudy Gobert type presence in the middle. Like the dude can just stand there, and I get he's 6 inches shorter than Gobert, but at the same time, he's dominant.
Yeah.
Like it's hard to, I mean, if he's packing Oscar Tshiebwe, you might want to start thinking about giving that guy some more minutes. Just my opinion.
Yeah.
But
I'm going to agree with you because Euros right now, like I said, he had a great run against Vanderbilt, LSU. I think right now, I don't know if Adu just has that kind of energy. Like he's like wanting to be out there. I'm not saying Euros doesn't want to be out there, but it doesn't look like it. He's just not playing to what he did a month ago. Jonas needs to be out there, and he's supposed to perform more than Euros. He's made a 50-foot jump shot that was beautiful. So he actually has a threat of shooting, whereas Euros is nothing good within 5 feet of the basket.
Yeah.
So I think that could happen. I would say keep BHH in because I think Folky off the bench right now is a really good kind of just to get off the bench, a little spark. But at the same time, I get Barnes wants to play, big to start, but he always ends small. So it's just like at that point, why not just start small and then just keep it that way? I just don't want him to play people who are not, I wouldn't say useless, but just don't provide good minutes and just go with the way it should be, like play small, because that honestly has been working best for Tennessee is going small ball. Folky at the 5, Adu at the 5, and then Josiah at the 4, Vescovy, Chandler, and Ziegler.
Yeah, and I'm big on that 3-guard lineup,
Mhm.
but I also understand the appeal of bringing Ziegler off the bench.
I do too. Yeah.
But I don't know. I think this week in a game like Missouri, why not just try it out and see how it goes?
I agree.
If it doesn't work, you make a change. If it does, keep going. But I think the difference between Adu is, and he's not a defensive liability like some smaller big guys are. So I think if you start him, you're not really losing much from the defensive standpoint in Euros, but you're also gaining so much on offense that it's almost worth it just to give it a shot.
Yeah.
Like we said, this next week is kind of not this next week, but this next game is kind of a good chance to just
Agreed.
make some adjustments, see what works.
Rewind the clock a month. You've got 5 post guys that you could 4, I guess 4, but we can throw Adu in there just for the purpose of this. 5 post guys that you can legitimately play. You got Olivier Kamala, who can do pretty much anything. Like he was a great player. He was pretty obviously the best front court presence that Tennessee had.
Yes.
Kind of shoot wherever he wanted. Like just a guy that could get a bucket at the same time, but also run back and get a block shot at the other end. I don't think there's anybody else currently on the team post-wise that can do that.
No.
I'd say closest is Adu though.
Yeah.
Because Huntley Hatfield has shown sparks, has shown little runs of him being able to do that, but none of the 4 am I confident in right now.
Yeah.
I'd honestly say because we haven't seen Adu that much, because we haven't seen exactly what he can do, and from what he's showed us, I see no reason why Adu should be sitting on the bench because Euros, like you said, has kind of lost a step. I'm not sure what's up. I can't pinpoint it exactly.
Sure.
Huntley Hatfield, to be totally honest, has been a little disappointing, but he's a freshman. I think he'll figure it out. I'm not worried about him, but right now in the season, it just doesn't make much sense for him to be starting, even if the team is saying it. And then Fulkerson's kind of the same way, just older. He's shown he can have really good games like he did against Arizona, like he did against Kentucky. But, man, if you can't get that out of him, the dude's just kind of standing there and kind of running laps.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
And so you get a guy like Jonas who's shown, hey, I can block Oscar Tshiebwe 3 times in one game. I can put up 7 points against a top team in 15 minutes of play. I can get 6 rebounds in 16 minutes of play. If he can do that, and he's been doing it consistently in all the games he's been playing, I just don't see why that guy's sitting on the bench. He should be getting 25 minutes a game,
I agree.
in my opinion.
I mean, Barnes has said numerous times he's the best shot blocker on the team. So why not play the guy? And he showed it against Tshiebwe and others, this past week. So why not play the guy? He's showing he can perform.
And I'll say it, if he sucks, so be it.
Everybody else sucks.
You gotta
Yeah.
when you get to March and you're going up against a Kofi Coburn, when you're going
Yeah.
against Oscar Tshiebwe again in March in the SEC tournament, Josiah's not gonna be able to do that.
No.
Euros is not. Someone's gonna cook Euros.
Seriously. Yeah, no, it's going to happen.
If you get a team that has a fantastic guard and a guy that is as dominant as, say, a Coburn, say that guy from Western Kentucky even, he's gonna get cooked.
Yeah.
It's simple as that. So you gotta find a dude that at least you can put in and say, just hold your head above water for 3 minutes. That's all we need.
Yeah, and at this point in the season, you got 2 weeks left in the regular season. Don't you want to make sure that these guys are ready to go if they need to come in? I mean, even if you don't plan on giving them a start in March, don't you want to, if you're Rick Barnes and the coaching staff, don't you want to at least be able to look at your bench and say, hey, these guys have played in big games. They can come in if Fulkerson and Huntley Hatfield and Euros get in foul trouble. So
I also want to bring up one more thing. Do you guys think it makes any sense for Dustin Powell and Victor Bailey to be playing at all?
I mean, Powell's big thing, I was about to say, Powell's big thing is he can make threes, and he's not been making threes lately.
He also
I guess he's gotten better defensively, but I don't know, when your calling card is you're a sharpshooter and you're flanking everyone, I don't know.
I'll say it before Riley says his point. The only reason, in my opinion, that Justin Powell and Victor Bailey should be getting minutes is foul trouble. I really believe that. I don't think they bring anything else to the team right now. And I'm sorry that might be mean, but if you're not going to hit your 3-point shots as a 3-point shooter, he's supposed to be a Kellen Grady type of person, and he's just not right now. I'm sorry. That might be a little mean, but when it comes down to it, he's taking minutes that other people could be using to learn to get better. There's no reason on planet Earth why Justin Powell should be in for Zakai Ziegler, unless there is foul trouble, just in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, kind of just real quick on yours. Yeah, I if you pick one, it's got to be Powell over Bailey. I think we've seen it. Bailey's had a good run here. He had a great game against Texas, but then Arkansas, he just had some sloppy play, sloppy minutes, terrible passes, defense, whatever. So I say Powell over that. But kind of one more thing off big men, we're going to see it Saturday against Kessler. So you want to show. I mean, if yours wants to show us something, Adu wants to show it to us again. Kessler's what 7'1", 7'2".
Yeah.
So
See the
you
big
talk
boy.
about a guy who's a big guy like you just said, Coburn and Sheboy. You're gonna find out again on Saturday.
Yeah.
So something needs to be shown, whether from Adu or Euros, whether or not who's going to be able to play or not.
Real quick on Powell, I agree with you guys. He shouldn't be taking up minutes that other players could be getting. But I do think one thing about him, he shoots maybe 2 threes a game per now.
That's true.
And he misses both of those. I think that just kills his confidence and he just doesn't want to shoot anymore.
Yeah.
Because, we saw in the beginning of the season, he could drain a couple.
Yeah,
of
he absolutely can.
Yeah.
I think if he
What,
can
4
find-
for 4 or something in one
Yeah.
game.
He's
I mean,
he's a good shooter. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's disputing that, but just the way that Barnes, and I'll let you finish, but the way that Barnes is running this team right now, it's just not a catch and shoot type of open team. Not like you got to move without the ball. Vescovy is running a marathon trying to get the ball every single time, and he does, and it's just worked out well. But Justin Powell just. I don't know if he hasn't figured that out yet. I don't know what it is, but he just expects to sit in the corner, get the ball, and shoot, and that's just not going to work in the SEC.
Yeah, and I just think, just lastly, he needs to spend these next 2 weeks getting ready or getting over this mental block that I think that he probably has in his head right now, and just be able to go in there, maybe just for a few minutes for the game, and just hit a 3 if he needs to, because that's what his role is.
That's all Barnes needs from him is to hit a 3 every once in a while. And man, it feels like he hasn't drained one in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's like you said, if it's confidence or if it's just being worked out of the game plan. I'm not 100% sure where that would be. I can't quite pinpoint that, but he's a different player right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to find the last time Justin Powell made a 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games. So last time 2 for 3 at Texas A&M or in that game.
That was like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, that was February 1st.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
So
I didn't realize it was that long.
yeah.
Is that the last time? And I mean, I get there's other ways to shoot from 3, but that seems to be all Justin Powell does. Has he scored in that time? I mean,
2 points.
against
2 points
against
and,
2.
Against Vanderbilt, and I think they were free throws because he didn't make a field goal that game. So it's been a tough. February has not been kind to Justin Powell.
Yeah, and let me say also, we're not saying this dude is getting 20 minutes a game. He got 6 minutes against Arkansas,
Yeah.
and still scored 0 points in those 6 minutes. But I think Kentucky he played around 10 to 15, and it's like, okay, if we're gonna be playing this guy at all, he's got to be scoring something. But I don't know.
Well, I mean, looking ahead, we mentioned Tennessee. They travel to Missouri Tuesday night, host Auburn. That'll be a big game Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, where's Tennessee's outlooks looking right now? Latest projections and everything. Obviously, Tennessee had a chance Saturday to make some ground on Auburn when they lost to Florida, but that didn't happen. So, where's Tennessee standing right now?
As far as SEC, Tennessee would need a miracle. I mean, if they're wanting to get a 1 seed, win the regular season, it's still possible, but I don't see it happening. If they had beaten Arkansas, it was honestly probable in my opinion because
Would have been a game behind.
they would
Auburn?
be tied with Auburn. I'm not sure how I think they would get the 1 seed because they would have beaten Auburn and they would combine for the regular season championship, but I think since they would have beaten Auburn to get there, they would have gotten the 1 seed.
Yeah.
Now, I could be completely wrong about
Right.
that, so
Yeah,
take that
right.
with a grain of salt. But moving forward, winning the SEC is going to be very difficult. It's simple as that. So, and that's mostly because this game against Arkansas, in my opinion, was the hardest game that we had left, that Tennessee had left. You have Auburn, you have Arkansas again, but both of them are at home, and Tennessee's playing super, super well at home. So, I'll be honest, I didn't expect Tennessee to win this game. It would have been incredible if Tennessee had walked into Bud Walton and won this one, because Arkansas is playing very well right now.
Yeah.
I did not think they'd lose in the way they did, but I don't necessarily think that means that Tennessee is out of things and that they've just fell off the ladder. I think they're still plenty fine. I think they're in good position right now. They just need to kind of make sure that doesn't happen again. If they go to Missouri and they drop another performance like this, maybe you got something to worry about. Just because you can't score the basketball on the road, which seems like an important part of winning games.
Yeah.
But no, when they get the thing that's crazy about it is I have no doubts that when they get back home against Auburn, they'll put up another 80-point performance and play them well, and do the same against Arkansas when they play them again, and then do the same against Georgia.
Yeah, I think Rick Barnes needs to do the. I don't know if you guys seen the movie Hoosiers.
Yes.
The speech where he gets the measuring tape out and shows them the length from the 3-point line to the free throw line and everything. Maybe he needs to do that when they go on the road.
He might travel to Hinkle Fieldhouse and
Yeah,
do that.
he can do that.
It's the exact same. You'll find it's the same as ours back.
Yeah.
But
I think, like we said a couple weeks ago, it's realistically they'll be a 3 or 4 seed, and that's to be expected as long as they get the top 4 locked down, which they should, because I think the top 4 have kind of separated
Yeah,
themselves.
they have. I think
think
it's
it's a
actually
lot. Yeah.
impossible for
Yeah.
Tennessee not
so,
to be at
so
least
they're
a 4
fine.
seed.
They will get the double bye. I would like to say though, I think they need to try and get a 3 seed, and so if they can make it to the semis in the SEC tournament, they don't play Auburn until potentially the finals. But that's kind of whatever at that point. So the top 4 is fine. Just like you said, let's play well against Missouri tomorrow. Get back to normal, regroup, get back home Saturday, and play well against Auburn.
Yeah, this is just a random point real quick. The tie for 5th place is between 5 teams right now.
Yeah,
which is really
they're
good.
all like 7 and
7 and
something.
7.
And
Yeah,
Vandy's 6 and 8, so I guess they could sneak in there too.
Vandy could be a 5 seed.
That's
Imagine
that's
that.
ridiculous. So
Imagine
yeah.
Vandy 5 seed in the SEC tournament.
No thanks.
But yeah, I think you have to get the win over Missouri.
You have to.
And I think they do. You know, Missouri's a decent team, especially at home. But
Konzo.
yeah, against your old coach, I guess none of these players played for him. But
No.
I think that should be a win. And then Auburn, I think, you know, you get the win last week against Kentucky at home, which I think has to be a huge confidence
It
booster,
does.
right? And especially, you know, they didn't lock down Sheboy. Nobody's gonna lock down Sheboy, but
Yeah.
they contained him. So you got to think maybe you can do the same thing to
And
Walker Kessler.
they did stop Wheeler and Washington for
Yeah.
what it's
Yeah.
worth.
They did about as well against Sheboy as you can.
Yeah,
like,
but-
I mean, he still got like 13 and
Yeah.
16, which is insane. But for him, that's light work.
Yeah.
I think what the great thing was they shut down Grady. He may have scored 3 points,
Yeah.
and then he went off against Florida Saturday.
Yeah.
So I think that to me, like you said, you do what you can against Sheboy. Grady to me was the big one. Ty wasn't healthy, so that was
That's
whatever.
Mhm.
So, but Grady, they shut him down completely.
In practice, Barnes was all over the guards
Yeah.
for Grady. I
Yeah.
mean, I heard the word Grady said probably 30 times.
I
He was like, you got to cover Grady every
Yeah.
single time they
Yeah.
did something wrong, because the dude just, I mean, he's like Vescovy, like we were talking about earlier. The dude runs a marathon,
Yeah.
and then I don't know. Did you see that one against Florida? He got hit in the back.
Yes.
He wasn't looking for the
Yes.
pass. He got hit in the back. Just turns around, catches the ball, just casually crosses a guy, and
Shoot
then
it.
swishes it through. And it's like, what
What are you doing?
what are we watching right now?
Yeah.
Like,
He's got cheat codes.
but no, I mean the dude is such a good shooter, but yeah, kind of like you're talking about. Like Barnes knew that Grady was a
Yeah.
big of enough threat, and that's why they shut him down, because that's
Agreed.
all he let them think about
Yeah.
for that little bit.
I don't want to keep rambling about this basketball team, but do you think that the win against Kentucky was more impactful for the team, or this loss because obviously Kentucky, that's a big win at home, but that's the thing, it was at home. They were favored, so I mean it is what it is. Do you think that loss had a bigger impact on the team?
I'd say the Kentucky one had a much bigger
Okay.
impact in my opinion, and I'm not sure how they're gonna think about it, and I'm not sure how Barnes is gonna think about it. I'm sure it's gonna be asked at some point today, but I hate to go back to officiating, but that team just could not do anything in that game.
Yeah, you're right.
Like, there comes a point where like you can lose a game like that, and you're in a hostile environment, and you're not shooting well, which that's a bad thing. But they couldn't help it. Like, it's simple as that. They could not. It's so hard to judge a game like that, because it just. I mean, it was hardly basketball in my opinion. Like they had a foul every 30 seconds, and you just can't get into a flow like that. And you're going into a arena where you're probably known to lose anyway. So, I mean, sure, they lose this game, and it was bad. It was rough. But I don't think it'll hold on, just in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't think this is really the kind of like deflating loss like
Yeah.
you saw against Kentucky. You know, it's
Yeah.
a team that you're kind of right there with, and they play incredible at home. You get some rough officiating. You know, I don't think this loss is gonna.
I don't think it will
haunt
either.
them for too long.
It's the way they lost that was different. Like, yeah, sure, they played like they did against Texas Tech, but you also have to kind of think about the context.
Yeah.
Like, we're going into a place that we haven't beat Arkansas in forever. The officiating was abysmal.
Yeah.
And you were still kind of in it.
You were,
You know,
yeah.
you shot terribly. You
Yeah.
turned the ball over 15 times, and I get the score doesn't really say it, but the Vols were within 3 the entire time.
lot, yeah.
Just pretty much the entire time. Yeah, they still lost. That's all that matters. They lost. It's going to go down as a loss. But they're not losing at home. They're not losing to a bad team, and I think it'll be fine moving. And if they'd done that against Missouri, if they do that upcoming against Missouri, you got to start kind of thinking, hey, this might not be great. But right now, I think you just put your head down and move on.
I was just about to say my answer will be is if they can come out and play well against Missouri.
Yeah.
If you can show me you put that loss behind you, not your fault, refs, whatever, you played crap, whatever. You put that loss behind you, play well against Missouri. If you don't, then that means to me you remember that Arkansas game, you're on the road again against Missouri, and you did that again. Mm-hmm. So my answer will be that, of course, Kentucky means a lot, but show me Tuesday that Arkansas did not mean a lot to you guys.
Yeah.
Again, Missouri Tuesday, Auburn Saturday. We'll have full coverage. UTDailybeacon.com as always.
Plug.
Yep. Anytime we can. So let's talk about the women's team. Man, they're stumbling down the block. Obviously, lose Jordan Horston, so that hurts a lot. But they lost twice this week at Alabama. That's when Horston goes down. Mm-hmm. Then go to South Carolina, number 1. They actually, I think, did better than a lot of people expected against South Carolina, given the circumstances. But they only lost by 14 there. So again, Andrew Riley, just what are your biggest takeaways from the week?
Yeah, I mean, just the road is not treating the Lady Vols very kindly. Like we have said for the men, the Lady Vols have now lost 5 in a row on the road. After starting 6-0 on the road, they've now lost 5 in a row.
That's tough.
Obviously, like you said, losing Jordan Horston just does not help the situation. Mm-hmm. She literally is leader in points, rebounds, assists, and steals. She's legit the team. So, and that was evident yesterday against Carolina, who had 59 rebounds compared to Tennessee's 38, and 31 of them were offensive. That cannot happen. So, and I will agree with you, they played a lot better yesterday than they did on Thursday, which is interesting to me without Jordan, how well they played yesterday. And I think, honestly, it had a lot to do with it. Was College Game Day was there on ABC. The exposure was there, and so they wanted to play well. The motivation was there.
Right.
But if you ask me, that's not going to happen every time.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to have. I hate to say it, but where was the motivation for that against Alabama on Thursday when you were full strength? Obviously not until the last minute, but why? I just hated that took them. Obviously they still lost it, but they still. I felt better about that yesterday than I did watching them against Thursday in Alabama. Mm-hmm. So they're back home this week. I think they'll regroup. They have to. Obviously, Jordan Horston. At this point, I would be shocked if she plays the rest of the season. I really would be.
What's her timetable?
They didn't say anything. Okay. Harper and her presser Saturday, they said it's open. Her return is open for anything. Mm-hmm. They're just hoping she doesn't have to have surgery. It's a fracture dislocation. It's going to take so long to heal, though. So if she comes back, I will be thoroughly shocked.
Yeah,
so,
and if she does come back, is she 100%?
Exactly.
And at this point, I mean, you don't want to say that they don't have a good chance of making a run, but do they have a good chance of making a run? I don't know. But do you risk Jordan Horston maybe doing something worse?
Exactly.
And losing her, for a longer period of time.
Future, exactly.
But I don't know. One thing that kind of baffles me about this Tennessee team is how Tamara Key doesn't average double-digit boards
every game.
I'm just always shocked when I don't see 10 or 12 rebounds next to her name. But I think one positive about Tamara Key yesterday was 10 blocks, of course. Mm-hmm. I think it's good to see her get back to that kind of just aggressive mindset and that defensive mindset. So I think that's one positive thing you take away. But after last week, I think if you're the Lady Vols, you kind of have to win out these next 2 games, and they're not going to be easy ones. They definitely could lose the rest of the season, but you're at home against Mississippi State and then LSU, who's gotten hot recently. But I think if you want to count this season as a win and not a disappointment, you got to win these next 2 games and get locked in before the SEC tournament.
Yeah. Oh shoot, that was a really bad voice crack. Holy cow. Excuse me. Yes. Just lost my train of thought. That really killed me.
Let me ask you this then. What's the Lady Vols lineup looking like now with Jordan Horston out? And it all falls on Ray Burrell now?
Yeah. I was about that going by train of thought. Ray Burrell, she did show a lot yesterday. Obviously, she didn't shoot the greatest, but she scored 14 points. That was the most aggressive I'd honestly seen her all season. Mm-hmm. I felt like she realized, hey, I got to step up. And she did yesterday. She was constantly – They were giving the ball to Ray. They were going at her. So I definitely felt like she showed a lot yesterday. So moving forward, she has to be the number one scoring option, no question. And yesterday, too, they just did not shoot well. Alexis Dye was like 2 for 14. Like I said, Ray scored 14, but it was maybe in 5 of like 14 or 15. So the shooting wasn't necessarily there per se. Still played, as well as you could against South Carolina, who's the best team in the country. Lady Vols literally is the best player in the country. 19 straight double-doubles. It's ridiculous.
It's dumb.
It's dumb. It set the record with Sylvia Fowles. So it's just like you did what you could yesterday. And so they can take positives, a lot of positives from yesterday. And I think they will go to Mississippi State on Thursday. LSU's a tough one. They're currently second in the SEC right now. Just beat Florida yesterday. So, now kind of like the men, though, the top 4 has kind of separated themselves in the men. So I think a top 4 should be okay to get to the tournament, but they got 2 games left. I just want to see how well they play this week.
Yeah, and just to reiterate, Ray Burrell has to step up.
I agree, yeah.
She's got to have some 15-point, maybe even upwards of 20-point games.
Mm-hmm.
Jordan Walker also has to step up.
Yeah.
She's been a player who's, some nights she'll score 15 points, some nights she won't score at all, maybe take 2 shots. She's got to take some shots and be ready to be that number 1, number 2 option on offense.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you've got to run the offense through Tamari Key. They've had the most success this season when they've gotten her the ball down low. So I think those are the 3 key things you've got to do coming up.
It's just not easy yesterday when Tamari Key, normally she towers above people, and South Carolina had a girl yesterday who was 6'7".
Yeah.
So they tried to give it to her down low a lot, and she still played great. Shout out to her, 10 blocks. Just past, she's about to, I think she's 17 off Candace Parker for the all-time blocks in UT history. She just tied Candace for the most blocks, or for second in the regular season. So she'll probably get there at this point. So like you said, run through Ray, run through Tamari. Jordan Walker, Coach Harper said yesterday in the presser, a lot has now kind of piled onto her plate now, losing Jordan. So I think they'll figure it out this week. They got a couple of day off today, practice before Mississippi State on Thursday. So.
Yeah, I mean, I was just looking ahead at their schedule now. You said Mississippi State, LSU, both at home,
Mm-hmm.
so that's going to be kind to the Lady Vols. But
Agreed.
we mentioned Ray Burrell, but just what are they looking for? It's their last 2 regular season games of the season. What are they looking for to just end on a high note, I guess, before the tournament?
I definitely think so. And on a high note, kind of regroup. Yesterday, they were just talking about just kind of building up their confidence, and just you could tell yesterday they weren't too down about. I mean, yes, they did lose. But I could tell they were happy the way they played. It just tough environment, 18,000+ people, like a sellout for women's basketball, kind of insane. I love it. So they're not happy with it, but they can build on what they did.
Mm-hmm.
The last Thursday, during the press conference, they were all down in the bunch. I could tell it was a rough outing. But yesterday, carry the momentum away, regroup, get better. Just look to girls to get better. New starting 5, Ray Burrell now. I think she's still kind of feeling it a little bit with her knee, but I think now with her being the number 1 scoring option, we'll see her elevate her game and play better.
Yeah, I think, like you said, I think the goal at this point is just to end on a high note. I think people forget that they're kind of still exceeding expectations
I agree,
this year.
yes.
I think it's just a little bit deflating when you start, red hot, beating some great teams and then start losing a lot. But they're still a great team. They're still exceeding expectations. So I think you just end on a high note with these 2 wins, or hopefully 2 wins, and go into the SEC tournament and try to get out of there with a couple of wins before the tournament.
Kind of going off your point, no one thought they'd be here at this point. Like this, jarring for top 4 seed, being in the top 4, top 5 at one point this season is just impressive enough for this group of girls who just lost Renaya Davis last year, who was their perennial best player all around. Kyle Jordan Horston is now. Just the elevation that Coach Harper has done with these group of girls, elevating to them to the next level. Obviously, Jordan took a huge step this season. Tamari Key's doing what she's doing. Ray Burrell still getting back from her injury. But, of course, Tess Darby, Jordan Walker, getting Alexis Dye. Sarah Puckett's a freshman who's playing lights out. So what they've been doing this year still is super, super impressive. Nothing to hang your heads about if you're Lady Vols fans. So everything is still in front of them. Still potential, a top 16 seed in the NCAA tournament, top 4 in the SEC. So 2 games left. I'm excited to see how well they play Thursday and Sunday.
Not to get sidetracked, but Ray Burrell's a senior. Where is she standing in the draft prospects, or
last time I looked, she was top 15 in draft prospects. So she's a very highly touted prospect heading into the WNBA.
Even go on a down year with an injury.
I think so. I think the talent is just there. She's proven it in the past. She's a 6'1" guard. There's not many that are 6'1" guards that can dribble the ball shoot as well as she can and just score at a high level. So I think it's there, no matter, like you said, maybe a down year, injury. So I think her status is still very highly regarded.
Yeah, and I think now that you're the number one option again, it's a great opportunity to prove yourself.
Agreed.
And just kind of let these draft scouts know, you know, I'm still the player that I was last year, even with the injury. So it's a great chance for her.
Well, again, like we said, Mississippi State Thursday, LSU Sunday, and then SEC tournament first week in March. So
Excited.
we're on the home stretch for the Lady Vols.
It's
Again,
crazy.
you-
Literally 2 games left.
Yeah.
This is insane. 4 games for men, but still 2 for the women.
Do they start before the men's team, or do they just play?
Slightly. It was like a
Slightly,
week.
yeah, it was like
Yeah,
Okay.
maybe a little bit. Yeah,
Okay.
nothing like crazy,
Mhm.
but yeah,
Okay, cool.
still.
Well, UTWweekend.com,
There
full
it is.
coverage. I say it every time.
You have to though. Everybody's got to know.
That's right.
I want to jump in with some breaking news real fast. Wide receiver coach Cody Burns just accepted a job with the New Orleans Saints.
Well, there
Wow.
it is.
So
Okay.
we're going to be looking for a new wide receiver coach
He did.
on Rocky
He did.
Top.
He did a really nice
He
job.
did do a very
That's
good
gonna be a
job.
big
That's
loss.
I believe the Tennessee coaching staff was at 100% staff
I
retention.
was gonna say,
and,
yeah, this is the
and
first guy.
now they're not.
Yeah,
But,
that's
good job for Burns. You know,
Yeah,
that's
step up.
a pretty big step up. He's obviously going to be with Callaway,
Yeah.
down there. But
How's-
yeah, that's obviously a loss that
Agreed.
Tennessee's
I
going to
mean,
have
because
to.
he was, responsible for Tillman.
Yeah,
Bayless had a nice year.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been a while since football.
Devontae Payton.
Peyton
yeah.
had a nice year.
Yeah.
yeah.
So
No, that's a big loss for
Huge.
Heupel.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, people don't really talk about assistant coaches like that very much,
It's
but
a big one.
I mean, him and Gardner, I feel like were the guys that Tennessee really could
Mhm.
not afford to lose right now if they're wanting to take a really big step.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I feel like losing Burns that's going to be significant.
Can't blame the guy though. It's the NFL.
No,
so,
yeah,
yeah.
I mean, definitely
Yeah.
can't blame the guy.
I mean,
but-
he put a good season
Agreed.
in, so good for him.
Yeah, very.
Josh Heupel, if you're listening, you got 4 guys right here.
We know.
Literally.
I used to be a wide receiver in 5th grade.
I tell you, when I play Madden, I break every single record. I'm the greatest play caller of all time.
I was so bad at wide receiver they moved me to center, and then I quit
Center.
football. Yeah.
Oh my.
If you don't know me, I'm about maybe 102 pounds.
Soaking
But yeah.
Oh man.
But yeah, sign me.
Sign
That's
me,
on his
please.
face
You know Heupel's listening to this. He has to be.
Yeah, Heupel listens to this, definitely. He cares.
Oh, man, that's funny. Well, on that note, let's talk some baseball on the way out. Tennessee had their opening weekend, first series of the season. Georgia Southern over the weekend, they won 3 games. It wasn't really close at all. Georgia Southern had the lead for about a half inning at one point, but even then, everyone was confident that Tennessee was coming back. Great pitching, the bats were out. Just what was your biggest takeaway, Andrew, from the 3 games this weekend?
I think my biggest takeaway was just some great play from the bullpen. You know, you had Chase Dolander on Saturday. I think he kind of just came in and exceeded expectations by a mile. Same with Chase Burns on Friday. Is it Chase Burns? Did I get that
Yeah.
right? Okay.
Yeah, they're both Chase.
I was like,
That's
double
good.
Chase.
Chase.
But yeah, the bullpen was great this weekend. Obviously, it's Georgia Southern. It's not an SEC team, but I think they kind of answered some questions about the bullpen. So I think that's my biggest takeaway, and just confidence in the bats early
Yeah,
is
absolutely.
always huge.
I mean, I'm going to talk about the 2 chases that you brought up. Tennessee had 3 different pitchers make their debut. 2 were freshmen. I think Vitale said that's the first time he's ever done that.
Wow.
So, again, we mentioned Tidwell. He's out. Halverson's out. Sewell, we thought would be out. He ended up pitching in the bullpen, like you said.
Twice, yeah.
Yeah. But, again, 3 debuts. But, man, Chase Burns, Chase Dollander, they were dominant. Dollander had 11 strikeouts in 5 innings, I think.
Wow.
They were both touching, 98 the whole game. So having those 2 guys, knowing they're only going to get better because they're freshmen and sophomore, and Tidwell, Halverson, they'll be back at some point this year. Their rotation is looking in better condition given the injuries. And you mentioned the bats there too. I mean, outscored Georgia Southern 33-3 over the weekend. There's again the question of we've lost a lot of people in the lineup. But I think they put a lot of those concerns to bed with a pretty dominant weekend at the plate.
Yeah, I think this weekend was a good chance for some guys who have been kind of I guess, in the backseat compared to some players that left last season. But you got Seth Stevenson had a great weekend. Ortega, he shined. It's kind of not his debut, but like his first chance to really just step up in the lineup. So I think that instills some confidence into those guys early on in the season.
Yeah, Trey Lipscomb was one of
Trey
those guys
Lipscomb, too.
starting for the first time. He homered the first night. Ortega, I think, homered twice over the weekend, starting in second base. You got something, Ethan?
It's really interesting to see these guys that were coming in as like pinch hitters from last season, I guess. Like Christian Scott,
Yeah.
he was a name I remember from last season that came off,
Yeah.
and he was usually the guy in the later innings that would be the pinch hitter. And, all of them did well this weekend. From the little bit that I watched, I was watching basketball for the most part, obviously, but I'd have it going on my phone, and I'll be honest, I was expecting 5-2 games. I'll be 100% honest, but they outscored them 33-3 on the weekend, and that's I don't care if it's Georgia Southern, that's got to mean something.
Yeah.
Georgia Southern's not a bad team.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Even with college baseball, it's kind of like basketball where like an upset can happen.
Yeah,
And
Illinois State just beat Arkansas.
Yeah.
So,
Love
to go out and sweep, Georgia Southern, like Josh said, not an awful team, but when it comes to college baseball, that's just kind of what happens.
Yeah, I think if you can escape a weekend without a loss and 2 shutouts, against any team, that's a great.
Yeah, not even just a loss; they whipped them.
Yeah, seriously.
I believe like maybe the first 3 innings of the second game was the only time where it was even kind of in doubt.
Mhm.
But if you're beating teams 14-0, that's a football score.
Yeah.
See, and that's the thing that I think is one of the most impressive. It's just on Sunday afternoons, you've already played 2 games, especially if you've already won the series. They're just like, all right, take it back a little bit. There's no pressure for us to win. We've already got the series. But they didn't do that. That was the one game where they scored in the first 2 or 3 innings. They were waiting until the 6th inning the previous 2 nights, but they came on and they immediately scored, put the pressure on, and they never looked back, turned into a blowout. Talk about Jordan Beck. He had a nice day Sunday after a slow start. Their other returners, Gilbert, Luke Lipsius, Evan Russell, who's that catcher, they all had good weekends. So again, those returners, they're playing the way that they're supposed to, and you have all these new guys starting for the first time.
Yeah.
They're looking better. Again, it is Georgia Southern, but they're not a bad team. They had good pitching, so encouraging signs to start the year.
We're not going to mention how Drew Gilbert hit that.
I was
grand
just
slam on
about to
Sunday.
say that. I was just about to say that. That's the
Come
one thing I
on.
saw. I was scrolling
Yeah.
Twitter and I saw another, and I was like, oh, they're playing
There
back
it
the
is.
Wright State one. It was,
There it is.
But
No,
yeah,
that's brand new.
another
One.
group.
Love that guy.
That just seems to be his thing. I also want to bring up, you guys were at the game. The fur coat.
Yeah.
Is
Oh,
that as
gosh.
cool as I think it is? Because
It's
I feel like that's
Yeah,
pretty
That's the
awesome.
best thing ever.
It's funny because it happened that was first night of the game, and that same right after that, Dave Van Horn in Arkansas. I just talked about
Yeah.
respecting the game
Of
and playing
course.
the right way, and then they go out and lose. And
I love
Tennessee,
it.
they pulling out the fur coat, they're pulling out the hat
The
for the
daddy
home runs,
hat.
winning big. It's hilarious.
It's just kind of fitting, honestly. That's the way it turned out to be.
They don't care. The personality of the team is infectious. I
Yeah.
feel like.
I
I mean,
love
coming
it.
from a guy that had never watched college baseball until last season when they went on their run. It's like when they're doing that stuff, when you got people swagging on guys, hitting home
Yeah.
runs, it's like, and that was the thing about
Good thing.
Knoxville last year. I get Lindsey Nelson was a shorter field than a lot of other places, but they're hitting home runs like crazy, and then they put a daddy hat on
Yeah,
afterwards, and
come
it's
on.
like, come on, that's cool.
Come on.
Like, I don't care if you don't like baseball, that's cool. You gotta watch that, and people have gravitated towards it. I mean, you saw this year, the series, I believe it was like 13,000, which shattered an opening
Yeah.
weekend record. So
Yeah,
you got people
agreed.
that care about it right now, and you got people that are really rallying behind what Vitello's doing.
Yeah, I was just going to touch on that kind of to close out, but the energy was electric, and it was Georgia Southern. I can't imagine once we get into some of those SEC series, like what it's going to look like in Lindsey Nelson.
Mhm.
And I think the guys really thrive off of that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
There's nothing better than hitting a home run and hitting a bat flip, and Lindsey Nelson's electric and cheering everything.
Right. I was gonna say, I think what's great about this team is last year, people in Knoxville needed them after a terrible year in football.
Absolutely. They do.
Basketball was down. Obviously, they made the NCAA tournament, lost first round. They needed this baseball team to do what they did last year. And Knoxville loves a winner. And so they came out this weekend, freezing Friday, still 4,000 plus people. Vitello has brought everybody to Knoxville. Lindsey Nelson finally getting the upgrades it deserves. So I think this baseball team is definitely here to stay for a very
That's
long
why
time.
I think it's really cool because I mean, coming into the season, you don't really know where they're going to be.
Right.
You don't know if they're going to be able to retain that potential that they had last season.
Losing
And
7
then,
guys to the
and then they
ground.
go in and beat a team by 14 runs and then
Yeah.
put on a fur coat afterwards.
easy.
It's
Yeah.
like, no, they're bad.
Yeah,
they
they're
like
fine. They're fine.
they still might not be the team they were last season
Yeah.
because that was next level. But no, they're.
Yeah.
Vitello's not changing anything.
No.
I feel like this team is still going to be as fun as always.
Agreed.
And, they might take a few more losses. I don't know personally,
College
but
baseball.
that's a good start to the season. That's a good start for someone that didn't care about baseball that much to be able to be like, hey, this is really cool.
Yeah.
And if I'm in that boat, then I know a whole bunch of other people. will be
This
also.
is what exciting, and I don't want to get off. We're about to end it. I don't want to get off on a tangent about saving the game of baseball.
Yeah.
But these blowouts and home runs. This is what gets people into it. And I don't want to hate on Dave Van Horn, but like playing the game the right way. Let's bunt. Let's play some small ball.
There was-
as long as we lose the right way, we're doing all right.
doing all
There was a
right.
specific instance I was watching. I can't remember if it was game 1 or it must have been game 2 because Tennessee was down. They were down 3-0.
3-0, yeah.
And I forgot who it was looking at a 3-0 pitch, and there were 2 dudes on. There was a man on first and second. And I remember thinking that they were like, oh, there's kind of an unwritten rule in baseball. You don't swing on 3-0. And obviously I knew that, but I was like, swing the bat. What are you
Like,
talking
that's
about?
the best
Send
case
this thing to the
scenario.
moon. What are you
Yeah.
talking
Yeah.
about?
I've got to ask you real quick. Speaking of like the game itself, what do you think of Vanderbilt's little watches, the little electronic things?
I don't know, man. I saw that. I mean, I've never played baseball outside of high school, and that was totally different atmosphere. But like,
Yeah.
it seems to me that that's going to take away from the skills of the players learning to adjust on the fly and
I agree.
read an at bat,
Yeah.
read a position, and hitter goes here, so let me shade this way. If it's
Yeah.
all coming from
A watch.
from a watch that tells you what to do, you're just not gonna have the same
I agree.
same development. And I get catchers have their signs because they got so much to do.
Sure.
Like that's fine, just to have it all there.
Yeah.
But you still call it yourself and all. I don't know. I think it takes away from the players and how they can learn
Yeah.
and grow in the game when the coaches are just feeding everything
Yeah.
to them real time.
They said on the broadcast if they do that all season, catchers will not give a sign all season for
Yeah.
Vanderbilt. Like
That's
that's crazy.
So you're not gonna know how to learn. a
How
game,
to learn
call a
exactly.
game.
No.
You're just gonna be relying on a coach.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
I hate it too. I just wanted to hear your opinion.
Yeah,
So.
I mean, there's a place for analytics, but like at
That's
some
not
point
it.
you just like, all right, just let them play.
Exactly.
We're going to get to a point in the NBA where people are only shooting 3-pointers. That's kind of the equivalent, I feel like, of what you
Of
guys
what-
are talking
yeah,
about.
probably. You're
Analytics is
definitely right.
becoming way too much.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
hopefully we get to that point.
It's going to get to a point. We're already pretty
Oh, we're
close.
definitely-
We're already pretty close,
Yeah.
but no, we got dudes shooting 70% 3-pointers like that. That's going to become a thing, and that's going to become a thing in baseball. And I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah,
But
we'll see.
Yeah. So Tennessee baseball, they play Tennessee Tech Tuesday night, or it's really Tuesday afternoon, 4:30. Then UNC Asheville again, 4:30 on Wednesday, and then their next weekend series is against Iona.
Mhm.
So as always, full coverage. UTDailyBeacon.com.
There it
I
is.
sent it here today. This was a good one. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next time.
Keep pushing B.
nice.